Honor guard. Order, arms.
Ladies and gentlemen, Marines and friends of Marines, veterans, it's my honor, my privilege to be the chairman of the Jimmy Reddington Memorial Remembrance Committee. We've had a very, very significant weekend here in Scranton. We've been blessed by a number of dignitaries who've come from afar and from our own government. We've been blessed with great weather yesterday, and God has parted the rain for us this morning for this brief period of time. I've been asked to say a few words to welcome you, but I don't think that you had any better welcome than what you just saw here today with the Black Diamond Bagpipers and the United States Marine Color Guard, Honor Guard from the 8th and 9th Barracks, Washington, D.C. I think we owe them a round of applause at this time. And for the League Reserve, Marine Corps League, we've been blessed to have the leadership of Joel Safranco, our commandant, and the folks in the rifle platoon who are going to do the salute later on. What a great tribute it has been for the League to receive Jimmy's medals officially yesterday and put them in repose and display at the League detachment up on East Mountain. We're not going to make this a long ceremony because we had a long one yesterday. We did a lot of introductions. At this point, I want to move right into the program and ask that Tommy Rummerfeld from the Marine Corps League Northeast Detachment come up and give us an invocation.
This is my 4th time being here. And every year that I came as the chaplain for the detachment, I read the Marine prayer. This year, I thought that I would honor those that have come every year to see Jimmy and to honor his grave. So I wrote a prayer for you, and I hope that it honors you very much. I saw a Marine kneeling down, for this was the quietest place he'd found. He had traveled through jungles, river, and mud. His hands were scarred and toil-worn. He folded his hands and looked into the sky. I saw his tears in his eyes. He spoke to God, and this is what he said. God bless my man, who now has died. I know not what you have in mind, but when you judge him, please be kind. When he comes before you, he will be poorly dressed, but will walk proudly, for he has done his best. His boots will be muddy, his clothes all torn, but these clothes he has proudly worn. His heart will be silent in his chest, for he has fought his best and did so with pride. So please take care of him. The price of freedom he has already paid. Amen.
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 chaplain. That was eloquent and moving. A round of applause for Tommy Hutchinson. We are blessed with a number of dignitaries that are here, and I hope I don't forget everybody, but I saw Chairman Pat O'Malley from the County Commissioners is here. Mayor Corporal from the City of Scranton is here. I don't know anybody. I saw Tommy Munley here. There he is, the judge over there. Huh? Jerry Notariani. Is Jerry here? The mayor of Clark Summit is here. Marine. Yes, sir. Jerry Carey is here, president of council up there. I don't know who else I missed, but I'm sure I did. This is all about Jimmy Reddington. It's not about the dignitaries. It's about what this man did for his fellow man. 3 weeks ago in the gospel, it was said that no greater thing could be done than the man to give his life for his friend. It's what he did. It's what Jimmy did. Gave his life so that others may live. Joe Silvestri, who's here, was badly wounded, and Jimmy charged the machine gunners, put himself in the line of fire without hesitation so that others could come and rescue Joe. Bobby Juarez had the task of putting Jimmy's body in the helicopter. And it moved him, as it's moved everyone in Echo 2-5, to never forget Semper Fi. What does that mean? It means we never forget one another. Joe never forgot. And for years he looked for Jimmy's grave. Couldn't find it. Finally in 1994, he finds this plot of ground right here. And he visits with Bob, Laura, Joe Moss, Brad Varney, other members of Joe Moss over here. I didn't get everybody here, but they'd come, 1s and 2s and 3s and 4s, to visit this grave on March the 23rd every year. And then Charlie Boylan shows up in 2007 and says, what's going on here? He's his boyhood friend, and he wants to know, why is this grave being tended to? And he and Jimmy Strzelecki and a bunch of other people from the Marine Corps, Friends of Marine Corps, and Marine Corps League started coming. And it built into what we're here for today. I'd like to call on now, to move this program along, to the first commanding officer that Jimmy had when he went in country in December of '66. This man is a hero. Hero to his men who adored him. Fight to the death for him. Shared a foxhole with him. His leadership was so extraordinary that he went into the line of fire, exposed himself, and was grievously wounded. But he led his men. And for that, the Marine Corps awarded him the Navy Cross, second highest award of honor and valor in this country, next to the Medal of Honor. He became a leader amongst the Marine Corps, was colonel in charge of the basic school where trained those second lieutenants. In private, he became director of public safety for the city of New Orleans and has to rush back today because he got worried about the pumps working. But he's here because he knows that this is the most important thing he could do today, is to remember Jimmy. So I call upon now Colonel Terry Everett, Commanding Officer, Echo Company, 2nd Marines at the time. Thank you.
Thank you, Ernie. Thank you, citizens of this great city of Scranton. Thank you for our Marines, our Marine detachment from Washington, but more important, thank you for being here as friends of Jimmy Reddington. We've spent a tremendous weekend and had the opportunity to tell lots of stories, sometimes good, sometimes bad, sometimes sad. But it is a bond that only is understood by people who've walked in harm's way. And so I looked the survivors of the 2nd Hotel Company, Echo Company, the 2nd Battalion, 5th Marines, and I put hotel because I've got the general to follow. But we're all from the 5th Marines, and it's been a great weekend here celebrating the life, the leadership, the moral standards of a young man who represents his community even today. And you can see that 51 years later as we look out on this audience. I've said a couple times some remarks this weekend, but I think I want to wrap it up with a poem which I think talks to all those people who in fact make the sacrifice for their country. And this is a Rudyard Kipling poem that many of you will remember and have heard repeatedly, but I think it's appropriate for today's ceremony. I went into a public house to get a pint of beer. The Republican comes up and says, "No redcoats here." The girls behind the bar, they laughed and giggled fit to die. It's out into the street, and unto myself says I, "Oh, it's Tommy this and Tommy that. Tommy, go away." But it's "Thank you, Mr. Atkins," when the band begins to play. The band begins to play, my boys, the band begins to play. Oh, it's "Thank you, Mr. Atkins," when the band begins to play. I went into a theater as sober as could be. They gave a drunken civilian room, but ain't none for me. They sent me to the gallery round the music halls. And when it comes to fighting, Lord, they'll shove me in the stalls. For it's Tommy this and Tommy that and Tommy wait outside. But it's special trained for Atkins when the trooper's on the tide. The troop ship's on the tide, my boys, the troop ship's on my tide. Oh, it's special trained for Atkins when the trooper's on the tide. Yes, making mock of uniforms that guard you while you sleep is cheaper than them uniforms, and they're starving cheap. And hustling drunken soldiers when they're going large a bit is 5 times better than parading in full kit. Then it's Tommy this and Tommy that and Tommy howls your soul. But it's thin red line of heroes when the drums begin to roll. The drums begin to roll, my boys. The drums begin to roll. Oh, it's thin red line of heroes when the drums begin to roll. Ain't no thin red heroes, nor aren't we blackguards too, but single men in barracks most likable like you. And if something in our conduct isn't all your fancy paints, why single men in barracks don't grow up to be plaster saints. While it's Tommy this and Tommy that and Tommy fall behind, but it's please walk in front, sir, when there's trouble in the wind. There's trouble in the wind, my boys, there's trouble in the wind. Well, it's please walk in front, sir, when there's trouble in the wind. You talk of better food for us in schools and fires and all. We'll wait for extra rations if you treat us rational. Don't mess around the cookroom slobs, but prove it in our face. The widow's uniform is not the soldier man disgrace. For it's Tommy this and Tommy that, and chuck him out the brute. But it's savior of his country when the guns begin to shoot. And it's Tommy this and Tommy that, and anything else you please. Ain't Tommy a bloomin' fool? You bet the Tommy sees. Thank you.
You see why he was beloved by Echo Company 25.
Yes.
Joe Moss.
Yes, he was.
Bobby,
He was.
Yes.
Joe, Brad,
Yes.
all of you. You know, you asked for him to be here. You've been in touch with him over the years, and that was absolutely moving, Colonel. God bless you. The committee that did all this wasn't just me. There was a whole group of people that was involved in this. Charlie Boylan and Jimmy Strzeletsky. You know what they did last night? I came up here and I found the grass wasn't cut. They came up and cut this grass so that nobody would trip and fall. That's the kind of guys that we have on our committee. Charlie, Jimmy, where are you? I know Jimmy's behind you, right over there. Thank you for doing that, and thank you for all the work you did on the committee. Jimmy Kuchwara couldn't be here. He was at Post 25. He just got out of the hospital. He was there yesterday. They did a nice job welcoming us over there. And but he was on our committee. Tommy McCarthy was on our committee. Where's Big T? There he was. There he is. He was the yeoman. He got everybody energized and organized, and he put out his best for us, and he made us feel good about doing it. And if you didn't like what he said, look at those arms, okay? He's got some biceps still working over there. Jimmy McLean, Mike McLean from the league. See them over there. Joel Safranco. Nick Petula. Nick's around here somewhere. Nick did that genealogy that he presented to the...
There he is.
Where's Nick?
Right back
Right over there. Nick, thank you again for all the work you did, all the trying to find out where the general came from. We found out he came from Scranton, and we're proud of that. Gene Warschak. Gene, where's your medal hat? Where's you traded it in from your Purple Heart. You traded it in for a USMC. Yeah, you're one of the Echo 25 guys. We're so happy to have you here. Also involved in this was guys from the 2nd Battalion, 5th Marines Echo Company. Joe Silvestri. Joe's right here. Brad Varney, Bob Wara, Joe Moss, Sam Williams. I want him to say a few words here today. Just a few. Because then I'm going to call on you later for something else, because I'm surprising everybody. But he was Jimmy's second commanding officer after Terry Ebert got wounded. He became an FBI agent after that in the Dallas office. He had a distinguished career. I just want him to come up and I want you to acknowledge this man who for 2 months led Jimmy in the rice paddies southwest of Da Nang and Anwa in Arizona territory. Sam?
Thank you very much. This has been very moving for me. I have been impressed. Number one, I was impressed many years ago by these gentlemen standing to my right that I served with, that took care of me, and also the dedication to honor Lance Corporal Reddington. I think only the Marine Corps would send a lieutenant general and a colonel to honor a Lance Corporal.
Absolutely.
And I can tell you from my personal experience that these gentlemen to my right and the ones, unfortunately, that we didn't bring back certainly took care of bumbling first lieutenants like myself. So anyway, I am impressed with everybody that has participated in this. Joe and all of everybody that has dedicated themselves to making this happen. Thank you very much for having me. I want to say that everything that I learned in this world, I learned in the Marine Corps, and most of it I learned from these men right over here.
Oh.
Thank you very much.
Yes, sir. Thank you, Sam. I have the distinct honor of presenting this next gentleman to you. He and I were classmates at the University of Pennsylvania starting in 1958. Long time ago. We graduated in the class of 62. He went to the Marines because he was a Navy ROTC. I went to law school. But in 67, we both wound up in Vietnam. Never knew about each other. I was assigned to 7th Marines. He got into 5th Marines. We were almost in the same area. I was up Hill 55, southwest of Da Nang, and he was over at An Hoa, and then they shipped him up to Phu Bai and then the Hue. They told him when the Tet Offensive came, he was captain of a company, said, go take that city back from those 500 NVA over there. When he got there, there were 10,000. There were 10,000. But he didn't stop for a minute. He took charge and exhibited leadership and led his Marines in one assault, daring assault after another over open terrain, from house to house, from rooftop to rooftop. Got himself shot up in the process. Nearly lost his leg. Marine Corps said, we're not finished with you yet. You're not getting out of here even though you got a bum leg. He said, you're going to serve. Commanding General Paris Island, Pendleton, Fleet Marine Force Pacific, founder of the Marine Corps Heritage Museum, the museum down there, where he's 15 years served as president. He's a 3-star general. 3-star general who said he comes up here to honor a Lance Corporal who gave his life for his fellow Marines. How powerful is that? That he recognizes the sacrifice that Jimmy made and that other Marines and other veterans and other wars have also made to make this country great. Here's the greatest, one of the greatest of them all, the legend, General Ron Christmas.
Well, thank you very much for that very warm welcome. You might have noticed that I stopped for a minute. I stopped for a minute because I really believe that if Jimmy were here today, he'd like to say a couple things to you. He'd like to say thanks. He'd like to say, first of all, hey, brothers, thank you. Thank you for Remember and Semper Fi. Thank you for not forgetting. We're still brothers in arms. We're here together. He'd want to thank the elected officials of Scranton and say, wow, I'm Jimmy Reddington. You did this for me? Boy, isn't that special. What the elected officials and the council have done is a very special thing. And you know what I think Jimmy would tell you? He'd say, and you know what? It's not just for me. It's for every soldier, sailor, airman, Marine, and Coast Guardman who has served. Jimmy represents them. And I thank you. Thank you for that. And they turn to the people of Scranton. He'd say, yeah, you know, I played a little football at quarterback. Yeah, I played a little baseball. You know, I did a few things. He said, boy, but finally you found that I came home. And you know what? What I've experienced over this weekend, these gentlemen have welcomed him home soon before this. But I get the feeling that all of Scranton this weekend, this Memorial Weekend, is welcoming Jimmy home. And there's nothing greater than that. Jimmy represents all of the young men and women who have served, young men and women who've made the ultimate sacrifice. He really is the epitome of those great men and women. So to all of you that are gathered here, to those of you in government, to those of you who are Jimmy's brothers, what you have done is truly great. And you know what Jimmy, I think, would say? He'd say, you know, General, I know you'd rather be called Skipper because you feel better as a captain. You know, he'd say, would you thank him for me? Would you tell my brothers I haven't left them? I'm there with them. Always will be. Will you tell them that? That's what he'd say, I think. Okay. I also want to say to the folks of Scranton, for me, this is coming home. I never knew my grandparents, but they're buried here in Scranton. My dad was born here in Scranton, one of 7 children. So in many ways, it is coming home, and let me tell you, I'm coming back.
Oh, all right. Hoorah.
And finally, I'd like you to look behind you and see that color guard. You see those young men there? Those young Marines represent our nation. Look at them. That's America. That's who we are. They've all volunteered. They'll go where the nation calls them to go, just like you went where the nation called them. And they represent today the most unbelievable fighting force you could ever imagine. Young men and women who have put their hand up and volunteered to ensure that your freedoms, to ensure that the freedoms of this great nation will always remain. And as I look over here finally, I see a POW MIA flag. We will not forget. We do remember. And we will return those remains from every war.
All right.
Because that's who we are as Americans. So as we honor Jimmy, we honor all who have gone before and made the ultimate sacrifice. We honor all who have served. And we also honor those young men and women who wear the uniforms of our services today. God bless you. Thank you for welcoming me home to Scranton, Pennsylvania. God bless America.
General. Thank you, sir. At this point, I want to call up to the podium a couple other members of the committee that I didn't mention. Jerry McNamara, Chris Kelly. I know you're not dressed, Chris, but I want you up here, and Steve Corbett. You guys step up for a minute, please. You got to do it. You got to do it. Chris Kelly, ladies and gentlemen, right here from the Scranton Times, wrote his first story about Jimmy Reddington and the men of Echo Company 25 in 2010. Jerry, where are you? Come on up.
Right behind you.
McNamara. Jizzy, come on up. General and Colonel, could you step up here, please, for one last remembrance? Jerry's been my right arm in all of this. You've become adopted Scrantonians, both of you. You're already a member of 2nd Battalion, 5th Marines. But we want you to go back to Virginia, General, and Louisiana, Colonel, with the memento, not only of Scranton, but of the Marine Corps. Steve Corbett has a presentation he wants to give you at this time.
Jimmy Reddington hailed from sacred ground, Scranton. Many of us have roots that go back to Scranton. All of us today stand on and share in the legacy of Jimmy Reddington as we stand on sacred ground, drawing from Jimmy Reddington's strength to apply to our lives, drawing on Jimmy Reddington's regard for others, his loyalty, his sense of duty, his courage, and we can only hope, as Colonel Ebert said yesterday, to use that strength, use that courage, use those attributes from which we draw our own sense of worth and do what's right in our lives, in our communities, in our country. These medallions are official Marine Corps bicentennial medallions, and at some point in the future, I expect you gentlemen to catch a glimmer of light. Maybe the sun will come in the morning, maybe the sun as it goes down at night will flash a glimmer of light from these medallions in which you'll see Jimmy Reddington, in which you'll see yourselves, in which you'll see all his faithful comrades, in which you'll see the luster of Scranton, Pennsylvania. Thank you very much for everything you've done.
Open it up, General. Colonel. The official United States Mint. The official United States Mint bicentennial medals. The United States Marine Corps.
Wow.
We present these to you, General and Colonel, on behalf of the Committee of Jimmy Reddington's Remembrance. We want you to take this. It's a token of our appreciation.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Very much.
God bless you. You may not know this, but what we did yesterday was not written in any history books. Wasn't written for the pages of history, but it was written on our hearts. And some people took notice of what we wrote. Wrote on battlefields 51 years ago. Wrote in hospitals trying to get better. Wrote in family gatherings at dinner tables. Wrote in groups when we got together and talked about war stories. But some other people noticed. The Wall Street Journal wrote a beautiful editorial yesterday commending Scranton and its citizens for remembering one of its own in a significant and powerful way. Today, Breitbart News of Washington, D.C. made it the lead story with a picture of Jimmy and Joe at the top of the page. the lead story. That story was picked up, gentlemen, ladies, by Sean Hannity and retweeted to all its millions of followers. Picked up by Laura Ingraham and retweeted to her millions of followers. Picked up by Sebastian Gorka, served in the White House, retweeted to his many, many, many followers. That didn't happen because of Ernie Preate or this committee, though. It happened because of Team Preate with my daughter Alex over there. And I wanted to thank her for helping us. We picked out, Joe, I want you to know, we picked out the picture of you and Jimmy at 10:30 last night at my dinner table. So that's the one that they used.
That's the best you could do?
That's the best I could do. But read that story, because it quotes heavily from the speeches yesterday by the general and by the colonel. Speaks volumes about what America is. And I want you to know that we haven't finished, gentlemen. We haven't finished. There's one more task that we have to do. Echo Company 25. And that is, when Jimmy needs another medal. Sam and I talked about this yesterday. We were both platoon commanders. I had Mike Company 37, Iron Mike. I wrote up my guys for Silver Stars and Bronze Stars when they deserved it and earned it. Jimmy earned at least the Bronze Star, at least the Silver Star, and Sam says maybe more than that. So when we meet again, and we will meet again soon, our task will be, while you are all alive and can give witness and affidavits to the Department of Defense and the Marine Corps, General, Colonel, we need your help to get Jimmy the Silver Star. This has been a moving occasion for me to stand over the grave of this brave Marine. To come here with these brave Marines who never forgot him. All of you who've come out and braved the weather and looked to see what is the best in America. And you've seen it. So at this point in time, no words can be said other than let us rest Jimmy in peace. And I'd like for a Marine Corps detachment to play taps.
Honor guard, let's stand. Firing team. Board. Arms. Ready. Aim. Fire. Aim. Fire. Aim. Fire. Recover. Present. Arms.
Hence, Corporal Witzel, retire the colors.
Mark. Time. March.
Honor guard, present arms.
Hood. 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 Hood.
About face.
Hood. Hold. Colors. Forward. March. Hood. 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 Hood.
There goes America's finest.
Honor guard, about face. Order, arms.
Take command of your troop and dismiss.
Honor guard, right face. Right shoulder, arms. Forward, march.
Ladies and gentlemen, I hope that you remember what you've seen here today, because it was extraordinary. I'm just humbled to be a part of it. Thank you all for coming.